Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 231, which is called The Rusty Blade Sword. I forget the exact title, but yeah, we had a week off. First one in a very long time. I don't remember the last off week we had for Boruto. It's been so long. But we're back here with this Tsubaki focused episode, and I actually thought it was, it kind of more than met my expectations, but there was a little bit of weird stuff with it. In that I actually thought the episode was really, really good for what it was until basically like the last 2-3 minutes were probably the most rushed we've ever seen Boruto to just, we gotta wrap this up like now. And it's so unfortunate at the time when they like hardcore accelerate the plot, because the fight has basically like just started and it's like, okay, you're not getting too much choreography here or moves. It's just boom, 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 typical sword samurai trope to end the fight, and not much of a resolution after you'd kind of set up a decent dynamic between these two characters. And then it just sort of wraps up with a little bit of the team bonding together. And it's like, okay, the episode was still good for Tsubaki as a character, given that she doesn't get too many episodes in focus, and it was needed after the tuning exam arc and kind of what they did with the character there. But they really missed the landing on this episode, and it could have been so much more. And I want to get into more about the start of the episode, just because I think it did a really good job at the start setting up like backstories for Tsubaki, in that like we haven't really seen much of that, and the samurai, as I think I said when we saw the preview, are an interesting part of Naruto because we've never really explored them all that much. So there's a lot we don't like particularly know about it, and the heights to which you can sort of take swordsmanship in Naruto. We saw bits and pieces because of Mifune, and he of course gets referenced here, and his sword. So I liked a lot of that stuff where it's, okay, Tsubaki back when she was training, here's sort of the star pupil, and she's sort of the up-and-coming star pupil, and there's going to be a tournament, and the rumors are that if you win the tournament, you're probably next in line to get Mifune's blade. And that's a kind of really cool thing. So you see those two sparring, and that they actually sort of get on relatively well. They help each other, but you see that the main pupil is ambitious, whereas Tsubaki just sort of wants to improve ultimately. Through the backstory, you eventually find out what sort of changes this character to turn him into more of a sort of kind of Ronin bandit sort of samurai, is that during the tournament, Tsubaki and he face off, and he's dominating, and Tsubaki happens to sort of win in kind of interesting circumstances where he's dominating it so much, he's kind of taking the approach of like, I don't want to like go too hard in case I hurt you. And so he seems to almost like ease off a little bit, and because he eases off, that gives her, who never gives up, a bit of an opening to win, and she strikes the decisive blow in the fight and wins. And he's sort of frustrated by that. They're not trying to get across that like Tsubaki like did anything wrong as such. It was more of just he let his guard down needlessly and got. They also try and present the idea that Tsubaki just maybe has more potential than him, sort of, and that's where the final fight really struggles to get across the point that I think the overall episode was building towards, which I think ultimately is that she is actually more suited to be the next one to inherit Mifune's blade. But there was so little swordsmanship, like technicality, in the final fight that it didn't like do all that much. Because otherwise, I liked a lot of the setup in that the team goes to the hospital, there's been a bandit attack. They have no clue about what happened. The patient won't talk to them until Tsubaki like kind of moves her sword and makes a sound with it. and this makes the patient freak out because he was attacked by a samurai with a sword. So this gets them onto the path of like, oh, a samurai attacked this guy. So when they go to investigate, they do this nice thing where they show a skill that the guy had in the past that he's still using to this day, and that is that he can cut down bamboo so cleanly that you can actually place it back on and it sort of stays up. Like, he does a diagonal cut where it falls off, but you can then place it back on, and even though the cut is like that, it doesn't slide off. The way they animated it, it almost made it seem like, you know, the bamboo just like stuck back together again. I'm not really sure if they were trying to make the point of just it didn't slide and that's how sort of clean the cut was, or it was so clean, like ninja technique almost, that it's now like structurally stable once again. I'm not sure what exactly they were making there, but either way, it gets across like only he, according to her, was able to do something like that. So, you know, that was a nice thing to kind of confirm to her it's him. And so they eventually come across the bandits. The rest of the bandits are no real threat in that, like, it's Namaida who mainly deals with them because she uses her sort of scream beam thing, and she seems to be able to use that at will now, which is really cool, and it's a very powerful ability that previously was this sort of like hyper beam like move where she had to almost like recharge afterwards, but it seems like she can use smaller versions of it now. So I'd like to see that explored a little bit more, because it's one of the more unique things that she just has like this concussive like laser beam attack that she can use whenever, so that's kind of cool. Beyond that, like I said, the first fight is basically she dodges one of his blows but takes a cut to, like, you know, her arm and her cheek, but she can't draw her sword against him because they used to be pupils, and because she blames herself for maybe causing him to go down this path, because in her mind she sort of flukily won their match, which derailed his whole kind of path and ascension to being maybe the next leader of the samurai. So, but the team kind of come back in, they boost her confidence and are like, no, you have to do this, you are skilled, you can do this. And the point I liked actually from Wasabi and Namaida in this case was that their interpretation of the story is actually that you need to do this for both of you. You need to defeat him to sort of show him the error of his ways, in that it wasn't a fluke win. You can beat him. So if you actually sort of properly defeat him, it will show him how wrong he was to go down this path. That it wasn't like, you know, Tsubaki like completely like ruined his life because of this like almost like mistake. But no, she is actually skilled enough to be able to defeat him. And that Tsubaki needs it so she doesn't blame herself for this and can accept that she actually potentially is the highest potential, you know, samurai. So this sets up the big final battle. Again, the others take the rest of the bandits out of the way, leaving them to have their fight. And like I said, it's at this exact moment, amazing setup, build to, you know, hopefully a really nice confrontation. And the second the conflict starts, it's just like, oh, they're not putting the budget into this episode, you know, the time and effort in to make this amazing taijutsu style sword fight where there's like amazing animation of just really cool sword sequences. They're also not even putting the effort in to overly like put effects on moves that they are using, in that the older pupil only seems to have attacks that effectively just put like a energy aura around his sword, and that's really it. It's just a kind of standard blue effect. They do the same with Tsubaki later. Otherwise, Tsubaki uses her kind of snow slash secret technique, which is very cool. He cuts through it, which is meant to show again his skill, that he has this you know, effectively move that can cut through anything, I suppose is effectively what they're going for. But then they're basically like, okay, there's the special move aspect of this done. We are now just going to talk a little bit and do the typical samurai sword finish thing where we will do one strike against each other, we'll rush past each other, one of us will fall, one of us will be victorious. But it's probably one of the weakest executed like times I've ever seen this, because they didn't give it the time to breathe, or really get the effect that that has, which is, you know, really focusing on their stances and the build up to this, really focusing on their eyes and the dynamic, and then an amazing quick piece of animation to show them going past each other, pause, 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 and then a cool effect as he falls to the ground. It was just very an average execution of that kind of typical end of a sword fight trope. And then the whole resolution to this from like an emotional point of view is just this very quick wrap up where effectively she accomplishes what she wants to do, and he realizes he was sort of in the wrong, but then he just sort of dies, and there's no real takeaway beyond that. Like her friends on her team said, she was able to defeat him, and it's this, you know, it's a big victory for her still. It's just it would have been better if it was a stronger fight overall. And then we end on a nice note of just, you know, the team working together, showing that after the drama of the tuning exams and her potentially leaving the team seems to be stronger than ever now. So it's one of those weird episodes where it just felt like you actually ended up creating a really strong premise for an episode, and then right at the end you just kind of went, this isn't really that important, is it? Let's just quickly wrap this up. Let's not really put the effort in to finish this off well. And I think it could have worked really well. It still accomplished what it needed to do for Tsubaki ultimately, but it's just what could have been with an episode like this. And with these anime original episodes, that's sort of why they at times get a little bit of a bad reputation. It's just that a lot of them are actually really good concepts. It's just, if you just put the little bit more effort in, this could have been very, very strong. The other thing with this episode is just that we did get the new opening here. Honestly, like I often do, like I don't really have too much to say about the opening. The song seems decent. I suppose I'll get more used to it as we go on. Animation seemed pretty good. The main takeaway for me was less analyzing every single shot and more that they seem to be suggesting that potentially there's a bigger arc coming up where some sort of group tries to kidnap Himawari, and it looks like potentially a bunch of the teams have to work together to try and get her back, and there's like a giant stone golem thing. And I'm wondering, like, is that just to have a bit of an action sequence in the opening, or is that actually going to be an arc? Now, where we are right now in the anime, in that we're probably not going to come back to manga content for a while, we probably do need a longer, you know, maybe 10 plus episode arc like we've had before. And something like that, saving Himawari, actually seems like a pretty good idea, in my opinion. The main other thing would just be that it seems like, Kawaki potentially is going to be wearing the headband, kind of original kind of Hinata style. So hopefully we get to see that more as we come back to him. But we still look to be in the middle of a sort of, you know, the follow-up arc to the tuning exams, where we're getting to see a lot of the first missions that the teams who have new tuning go on. So Denki is up next. The main thing they seem to be teasing is that he's showing quite a lot of intensity in it. I'm guessing they might play with the idea of, like, now that he's the leader of the team, might he be trying to change the dynamic of the team a little bit too much, and he just needs to learn how to maybe relax a little bit as the leader and just sort of be the way he was before, rather than trying to change and like actively be the leader. But we'll see what they do. I always enjoy these episodes where they do flesh out the other characters a bit more, and especially after highlighting a bunch of them in the tuning exam, it's a good idea to do a follow-up to show them doing that. I do wish they'd have shown Wasabi in this episode wearing the tuning vest. Same with Denki in the preview. It doesn't seem like he's wearing the vest, because they've mentioned it a few times, like wearing the vest, but then they just refuse to give it to them. Actually, I get it. It maybe changed their character design like a little bit too much, and they want to keep the standard design. But the whole point is in a way earning your tuning vest, and then they never wear it. It's a bit weird. But yeah, that's been the video. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. But that's it. Been it. Thanks for watching, and bye.